Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and coming back for part 2 of 2 to talk about the defense, as we already talked about the offense last week, as promised, and with a few other gizmos and doodads hanging up there in the background to enunciate his nickname in one Flash, Zach Celadonia. What's going on, Flash?
Hello. Yes, that's me, Flash. Thanks for having me on again, Joe. Part 2 of 2, like you said. You complete me. Shout out Austin Powers. And yeah, I've gotten a couple mostly positive reviews of my time on the show, but a bunch of my friends have been asking, why don't you flip your phone landscape? It's more professional. It looks better. I said, well, I don't have much stuff to hang behind me. I don't want a big blank space on the wall. So I grabbed my custom Bumblebee Flash jersey, nailed it to the wall. Don't need a shadow box, just hammer and nails. And then over here, I have that tin of the Flash. That was already down here on a different wall, but just a relocation, and I think it looks good. People have to know who they're watching here.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to ask where the Flash thing is. I love the Bumblebee. There's many people who didn't. I didn't like the pants. The puke-colored pants did not go... Like, I understand it was like nostalgia and all that, the throwback, but I didn't care for that particular... What do you want to say? They could have tweaked it a little bit.
Yeah, I think those pants were directly from the 50s, honestly, because they were white originally.
Yeah, they were originally white. Like, I always like that kind of bothers me too. Like, I don't have like the biggest OCD with like I shouldn't say that, because my shoes, I try and keep my shoes like immaculate, right? And that's why I got pairs of shoes that have lasted the test of time. They're older than my kid, but like watching the original, those not originals, but the 75th anniversary throwbacks where they had the gold helmets and like they look like the Color Rush jerseys now, but that's kind of
those
where
were
that
fresh
concept with the block numbers. But they had those white pants with the gold stripe. And I'm like, man, those things just get so dirty so easy. Like, that bothers me. Like, even with like baseball, it's like, okay, we're going to go with like the off-white, so maybe we can get a few more washes. The equipment manager doesn't have to get out the bleach or the OxyClean or whatever, and get all the stains out. Like, I don't know. I think about these things now, I think, just because, I don't know, I got the kid that just destroys everything. The kid, the dog, the cat, whatever. They're all running around. You running around. I got some stuff. I added something new to the wall, too. I changed things up a little bit. It's going to be like, where's Waldo? See if anybody pays any attention sometimes. But where's the Flash thing come from, by the way? Because initially I wasn't thinking that you would have the Flash DC Comics character there. And there it is. So, like, do you have a story? Do you have a story you could actually tell us here on the air that's kind of like safe for work or PG?
Yeah. No, it's totally PG. Although I've gotten those jokes since I've been dubbed the Flash. That's an easy joke to make at me. But I won't bore the people too much with details. When I was a freshman in high school, we all got together for the football team before pads and before actual hitting, and you do conditioning and you run and you just show the coaches what you can do. And at the end of every practice, most football teams will do gassers, which are just sprints back and forth down a field. And in ninth grade, freshman year, I was winning all those sprints. And basically what came of that was one day a friend of mine put up a picture on Facebook. And I'm not even on Facebook much anymore, but that's how long ago this was. But it was just a picture of like 50 superheroes. And he tagged like all of us on a different superhero. And he put me as the Flash, and no one else like really cared about this thing or took it and ran with it. But as soon as I saw that on there, I started calling myself Flash and changing my name on platforms to Flash, and eventually using it for social media tags. And don't get me wrong, at first that was a rough period that I had to get through, because classic nickname rule is you can't give yourself a nickname. That's not supposed to be allowed. The loophole that I exploited was I didn't technically give me the name. My friend who tagged me on Facebook did. I just embraced it very much. And slowly but surely it worked its way into my friend groups. And now to this day, when I see a select few of my friends, a lot of them still call me Flash, and it's like super natural for them too. And you've even started to do it, and I appreciate it because it's a part of my life that I embrace, and I can't run as fast as I used to, but I still like the name and it still works. And I appreciate you asking because not many people do ask. But yeah, man, I used to run a 4.5. No big deal. Just throw that in there real quick.
Okay. Hey. I used to be under a 6-minute mile too. So,
Oh yeah, I would have gone D1 if I didn't tear my knee up. I'm one of those guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's nice. You're one of those little quick guys that get their feet moving real fast, like the Pomeranian that we've got, the Pomeranian puppy. And I said, I wish I could plug something into her and charge like all my batteries and stuff. Just never-ending energy. But no, I had these longer strides being a taller dude and a bigger dude, and just got slower as I got older. But hey, you know what? It's like we used to do 40 meters. With the fitness test when I was officiating, so I at least know my times there. I wasn't like officially timed, and nobody cares about speed when you're playing other sports. So it's like,
yeah, right, yeah, it's useless now in my everyday life unless I'm running from the cops.
Yeah, so it was more like I was fairly confident I could probably beat Rich Eisen in a race, perhaps even Mason Rudolph, but and definitely Ben. Me and Ben would be a decent match, although he's in way better shape than I am, so I shouldn't say. But a couple of years ago, I think I could have done it. Should have had like a charity event, like me, you, and Brian. We should all get on a track and have people collect money and see how fast.
Oh my God! Yes, yeah. Name the time, or put us on some rowing machines or something.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. Don't get him going. He likes to do like the Spartan races and stuff like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Mr.
Or at least he used
Brian.
to. At least he used to. I don't know if he's still. I know he's like the wilderness hiking, and that's for. Okay, programming note for everyone out there, going outside the box right here, looking right at you. The reason we don't see Brian as often as we used to here sometimes on the podcast, and he'll laugh if he's watching this, is because he's in the wilderness. He's always finding like a state park or somewhere, and he's literally, I told him to go take a hike, and he took a hike. So anyways, we did start this off in a lighter mood because we were having some other technical challenges with some things we're attempting to do here, which are coming soon, and I don't want to let the cat out the bag just yet. But we did have something that kind of rocked Steelers Nation over the weekend that we should bring up. We had already talked about the offense last week, and having watched this young man in college and followed Ohio State as a tragedy, I can't even get the right words out, to be completely honest. And it's if you hadn't heard, the passing of Dwayne Haskins, 24 years old, very young, a lot of life ahead of him, and just unfortunate. Don't know the entire circumstances, situation, story, or whatever. Just know that he was invited. We were just talking about this, I think, or we may have just been talking about it in the back rooms, but Mitch Trubisky was having people down. I don't know, does he live down in Florida, or they were just training down in Florida? But there was a whole group of Steelers working out together, running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers. Kendrick Green was down there, so probably snapping the ball. So they're getting some. They were down there to get some work in. I don't even know if they were together like a day or two, and there was just. It's just so surreal. This is I've seen this happen too. As I said, I've been involved in pro wrestling before in the past, and you see somebody post something on social media, and it's almost eerie to find out that they've maybe left us the very next day or next morning or whatever. And it's one of these things where I'm going to be able to remember the rest of my life. Where were you when you heard this news? Because I was actually showering, and I got one of those Bluetooth speakers, and Sirius XM was playing. And I'm listening to it. I like to have some background noise. I don't sing in the shower or anything crazy like that. Had my first shower beer actually just the other day. I've never actually done that, but I had one open. I was being lazy throughout the day, so those two things came together. But it was like a breaking news tweet from Adam Schefter, and the way it was delivered, and I can't remember who was delivering this message, but it was just like Dwayne Haskins, and the way it was being read with pauses, I was like, oh no, please tell me something didn't happen. And the news was delivered, and I was just like, wow, that's just like, I don't know. It just like, it shakes you. You're just talking about these players, and, we try to have a human side here sometimes to this, specifically our platform, because we always say football is community, football is family. And unfortunately, there are folks, we poke fun at the Yinzers or some of the people in the media, the clickbait stuff, but there were some ugly things that came on side of this too, where you're not having the empathy that you need from this sort of platform. So it's like it's tough to bring this up at the very beginning, and we're joking around, and we still put insert some jokes. But a young man lost his life. Sounds like he was very much so cherished by all of his former teammates, coaches, anybody that knew him. Nothing but positive things to say. Let's remember anything that's positive. I can't say that I wouldn't even know if there's anything negative, because I think a lot of things are just speculative. This would be like on the side of like Juju with TikTok or something like that, to where if you're saying these kind of things or making these kind of remarks, it's just an ugly side to people that it's just, hey, just grow up. Somebody lost their life, and it's sad because we're in the middle of debating whether the Steelers are going to take another quarterback. Could somebody be, cut or released? And Dwayne Haskins' name comes up in those conversations because, of course, he was the QB3 last year, former first-round pick. So it's unfortunate. It really hits me even more so. You hate to see anybody. You see, like, I think the Cowboys running back coach that passed away, and you see some of the others that you lose.
Coach Drake.
Yeah, I mean, well, Coach Drake was a real sudden one too, because he's coaching. When these type of things happen, those ones hit you. And then you have some. Kevin Green. I don't think anybody was looking at Kevin Green. Tunch was real sudden. But what I'm saying is like you got some guys that have lived some of their life. They might be in their 60s or 70s or maybe even retired. There was the one referee that just passed away recently too. And it's just, you see somebody that's such a young age and they're younger. Even we joke, Brian being old, or I'm getting there, I'm catching up. And even yourself, it's just, wow. It's just really, really shocking, and it really rocks you to your core to a certain extent. So I don't know if you have some words to speak about on this too, Zach, but I thought we would at least give a few moments to talk about Dwayne Haskins there, and it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see at least. I don't even want to say it as at least. We were really looking forward to seeing him play and compete this summer, I think. And as from a fan perspective, that's something that's now been taken from us, and we should feel sad. I feel bad when anything happens to any of these young men.
Yeah, taken from us and taken from him as well and his family. Very shocking, very sad news, terrible news, surreal to me in a sense. I was at work and I went. Well, first I should say I saw a tweet on Twitter early morning from just some account. It was some like Steelers fan account, not verified, no one that I knew. And it was pictures of Haskins saying like "Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins," this, that, and the other. A group chat I'm a part of saw that and we were like, "What is this guy talking about? Is he just like trying to make fun of Haskins, like saying he's out of town?" Like, I don't get it. And about an hour or 2 hours later is when you had like actual people reporting it, like Schefter and etc. And it froze me in my tracks. I went to the bathroom and pulled out my phone, and I was in there for like 30 minutes because I was just reading my phone and standing there shocked. And I feel terrible for Dwayne and his family and all of his friends. It's hard to process, for sure. I definitely was sad and upset. A little bit of anger came through because you had people like Schefter, who most people know. The first thing he mentioned was Haskins' struggles in Washington as a quarterback, which there's a time and a place, dude. And a 24-year-old man just lost his life. And no one really cares that he struggled in Washington at first. What he should have said was
not at this time. Yeah, it was just the timing, and it was in poor taste, very much.
Yeah,
so.
Very poor taste. If anything, he should have mentioned Haskins, who recently latched on with Pittsburgh. Earned a second contract with Pittsburgh, showed up last year, humbled himself, and he got to stay another year. And you had guys like Gil Brandt also running his mouth, saying that, maybe Haskins shouldn't have been playing in the freeway or whatever he said.
Yeah, he said something or other. I wasn't going to bring him up. I don't even want to give any time to some of that. And, of course, there's I don't like to get too deep on that, especially when we got other topics to talk about too. But I was very disappointed.
Yeah, of course. No, I was about done there. I was about done.
No. I wasn't saying it like that way, but just and even paraphrasing that, what he said was very tasteless, and it sucks because Gil is somebody I bring up a lot of times on this show, and somebody I'd looked up to was he's a Hall of Famer. He's been around. He knows like every little podunk town throughout the country, recruited lots of players. And saying that was just a lapse in judgment or whatever it was. I'm not exactly sure where that came from. And that's the odd thing is that I heard that live, as I was saying, that he was on next on the show.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So it like broke. It was whatever, like around 9:30, 10 in the morning or whatever on Saturday. So yeah, I don't want to dwell on the negative with those guys. I mean, we could talk about a lot of that until the cows come home, and also all the people. I will say one other I will call out is all of the folks who operate these various Steelers websites or blogs or whatever you want to say that they are, many of them with their corporate overlords and their quotas and whatnot, and they pump out stories about this for their own benefit, which is very tasteless in order to get clicks and views. It's a lot different than having something like, let's say, the Post-Gazette or something, where the newspaper, they're reporting the news and this is their job. These other folks are, I guess you could try and say, but they're not breaking the news. They're not there. You got the Jerry Dulacs or whoever of the world that are breaking the actual news. They're the ones that are, this is what they're doing. That's their job. They're the journalists and the reporters, and everybody else is kind of like, it'd be like if you or I did this same thing and we were trying to get retweets or anything like this. I don't even know that I retweeted my own comment that I made about this with Rest in Peace Dwayne on the Steel City Underground thing. That's how strongly I feel about having some moral convictions and
you're exactly right.
Taste,
you're exactly right.
Some class, it's just that it makes me feel dirty doing something like that. And there's attention seekers all over the world, and just shame on them for that. And it's unfortunate that we go from your nickname to this story, the highs and the lows, and now we are going to talk about the defense that we left off on last week. If we don't talk about defense and we just complain about this, then we're not going to have time to talk about defense because the draft is right around the corner, and there's all kinds of good stuff to do there, and hopefully we can get a few of our usual, one of our usual segments that we do at least once a year, if not twice. We were mocking the mock drafts last Friday, and I think you caught some of that, and we were making fun of some of those picks and what some people are predicting, and most of them are predicting quarterback. And I just love when I read something that says, well, the Steelers are definitely taking a quarterback. Every sign that they showed is quarterback. And could they shock the world again after 1 year where they take time off from selecting I'd say a buttload of defensive players, because the first 4 picks last year were all on offense. And in the previous years, all the first-round picks for, I don't know, like 8 years straight had all been on the defensive side of the ball. So we're going to take a look at this roster, take a look at this depth chart as well. And I guess we could start with the defensive line. We could start with our favorite grown-ass man. Actually, I had something here. We're talking about decor, and I had to bring this up, and I think I already smudged it a little bit. But I've got the hashtag. I'm going to start bringing this out on the show. It doesn't really go on the wall. I don't know what else to do with it, but I could write on it and I could change it. So we got our grown-ass man, hashtag grown-ass man, Cam Hayward. And, oh, man, it's just rough. Some of these guys, I saw some of their words too. Now it's in my mind. It's like, what are you doing?
You know what, Joe?
Players?
That's fine, dude. That's fine. It's natural. We're talking about a tragedy here, and I want to get to the defense too. Just real quick, in closing, I just want to say, respect to Dwayne Haskins and his family, and feel terrible for them. I feel terrible for his teammates, like everybody who was down there in Florida with him, all of his Ohio State former teammates. And the last thing I want to say is I felt what you did about not wanting to pump content or even tweet. All I was doing was retweeting people paying their respects to Haskins, and I didn't say anything until people started making fun of Chase Claypool for posting his video crying about Dwayne Haskins. And here's what I'll say about that. Claypool didn't post a video of him crying about getting broken up with a girl. He didn't post a video crying because he lost a job or his parents were fighting with him. He's crying because his good friend died. So I understand that there's some people who are like, well, that's a bad look, dude. That's embarrassing, putting yourself crying on social media. Not when your friend dies. And it's a big part of why men don't do that. They don't show stuff like that because you get made fun of, you get called embarrassing, and nothing what Chase did is embarrassing. I'm glad that he posted that video of himself crying because it needs to be said that when you're going through something like that, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to express emotion, and Claypool knew Dwayne for what, like 2 years? Imagine how his family feels and people closer to him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a sad, messed up scene and it's a terrible tragedy what happened to Haskins, and all we can hope is that he's in a better place now, and any negative or any kind of comments that aren't wishing the best for him will stop.
Yeah, it was making me. It's just like the whole link that comes around Cam Hayward from Ohio State and everybody that was saying some stuff, and it just made me think of that. And it's like,
Exactly.
man, I want to go and talk about my grown ass man there. Thanks for bringing up the Claypool stuff too, because that wasn't something I was thinking of. But yeah, the people, shame on those people too that were making fun of him. And everybody grieves in their own way. Everybody's got their own process, and that's actually kind of a good segue. I'm bringing up Cam Hayward, but let's just talk about Stephon Tuitt for a second and all the sick and disgusting things that some people have said about, well, I hope he pays some money back from his salary, or he just took the team and everything. And it sounds like he's been in communication. Most people they forget. He was out there in July. He was working out. He wasn't necessarily, it was like the same thing like what we said with like TJ Watt. And people were like, well, he's not practicing. And there's people that aren't boots on the ground there to see this. And from all intents and purposes, you had people in the media all year round, every single press conference, before games, Tuesdays, after game. Is there any update on Stephon Tuitt? And Mike Tomlin's got to shut these people down. Kevin Colbert's got to shut these people down. And now they're starting to talk about it. You've heard from Art Rooney. You've heard from Colbert. You've heard from Mike Tomlin. There sounds like a pretty good chance that he's going to play this year. They use the word excited. There's nothing that's official yet. But when you pair these two guys together, if Tuitt's going to be back, and I'm knocking on wood, I want to see my dude get out there. I've been a big supporter of him. And we talk about grieving and everything, and it's just, how do the guys down in Florida now with Mitch Trubisky move on and practice or anything else now? They probably got to make some arrangements for travel and to go to a funeral and stuff going, a very short time span. And this is going to stick in the back of their minds now. They got to live with this their whole life, that you were just having like, I don't know, you could have an adult beverage, or you had dinner, or you were hanging out, you were watching TV, listening to music, tossing the pigskin around with this guy, and that poof, gone. And this is what Stephon Tuitt dealt with his brother.
Exactly.
And it's weird. I didn't think that this would be the way I'd be talking about this when we came to this defensive portion of the programming. But Tuitt he's a beast. He's another grown ass man. I'm not going to reach down here and find. I don't know where I put the hashtag, but he could be too. Grown ass man, 1A, 1B, and 1C.
He's so good
maybe.
When he's out there.
Yeah, double-digit sacks the last time he was on the field. I know Tyson Alualu's a little up there in age. But those three as the starters, I mean, without Alualu and Stephon Tuitt, you kind of saw what transpired. Chris Wormley, Kevin Colbert even said this. They feel that he's starter capable, and he was, and he played well.
I think so too. Wormley's unsung. He had 7 sacks last year. He's a Raven killer, which I love about him. But yeah, definitely not the same level as Tuitt, but still a great depth piece and fringe starter, I would say. Chris Wormley, fringe starter.
I hate saying fringe starter. 7 sacks. You know what? I gotta look up something. Did Brett Kiesel, how many sacks do you think was his single season high ever? It could not be. I'd be shocked
8.
if 7. You think 8? Let's see what we've got here. No, not even close.
6?
He's at 30 in his career. Yeah, 6 is high. 5.5 in 2006, and he never got anywhere above 5 the rest of his year and the rest of his career. We're also talking a different era of Steelers defensive play calling, Dick LeBeau versus what's now, and go get the quarterback is a little different now with Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt versus when Kiesel was out there. It's a little funny to just say, fringe starter. Yeah, it's 7 sacks. You know what I mean? And
I'm comparing him to Cam and Tuitt is why. I think he's a good player. It's just those two are freaks, but he's still a good player. I'm higher on Wormley than a lot of people that I've talked to, from what I've come to realize. I think they saw the rush defense last year and were like, well, that has to be all the defensive line right there. And it's like, well, there's other issues too. The linebackers weren't doing too great. So I like Wormley. I do. And I like Loudermilk a lot. We agree on that. I think he's going to be a good Steeler lineman for us. And Adams was brought back, who I like. I like Adams. And I think we still have Carlos Davis.
Yeah, Isaiah Buggs is the one that got bugged out of town. Isaiah Loudermilk is another guy that he looks like he could be a clone. He's another Big Ten guy, clone of maybe Cam Hayward, but Cam Hayward's still playing his best football. He was just all pro, second time in his career, double-digit sacks. How old are we now, Cam? May 6th, he'll be turning 33, but...
Another May birthday, let's go.
Calais Campbell just signed a 2-year contract with the Ravens at age 35. So, I mean, Kiesel was playing until he was 37, 38. Now, that last year was a break glass in case of emergency. They saw the defensive ends that they had in camp. They didn't put them through camp. They brought them right at the very end or for one of the preseason games and was like, okay, you good to go? You've been staying in shape, which is a funny conversation. That's something we'll have to bring up for another time. But they were talking about, how the players get together with the Mitch Trubisky thing or anywhere else, because a lot of times players are responsible for their own training for this whole offseason portion. There isn't anything that really goes on, and you talk about contracts, free agency. I don't know how they could ever change anything like that. You're going to force somebody to go in and train when they're not under contract. Their contract expires in March, or do you want to invest time or whatever into some of these guys? Now, from this point forward, now that you have everybody, all these rules exist in order to make things fair, I guess is the best way to say it. But Cam is definitely, I wouldn't say that he's anywhere near over the hill. He's been playing his best football, and as long as you don't have something that happens, knock on wood, barring any bad injuries or anything like that, you have these three beasts up front. And they are beasts. I say that in the most, sometimes I talk about my daughter and the little puppy, Beauty and the Beast. And I won't say which one's which, but Oh,
I know.
I think Cam, could you be looking in the draft maybe for somebody else along the lines of this defensive line? Who else did we didn't mention Henry Mondo, my king, Montrevius Adams. I mean, he came in and just played very, very well, and we just got that short little window, so we don't know the full picture. But he came over from the Saints practice squad. I thought he was fantastic when he came in there. They could add someone maybe to this mix. I don't know necessarily that they will. I know we've talked about someone like a Jordan Davis or his teammate Wyatt.
Devontae Wyatt.
Yeah, Devontae Wyatt. It's a possibility. Maybe the Steelers are blowing smoke, and somebody else says, "Oh, geez, that Pittsburgh team, they're gonna take a quarterback. We need to get ahead of them." And then you're like, "Ha ha!" And they move up, and then it's one more spot that somebody didn't take one of these studs on the defensive line, and now you've got somebody that's there lying in wait. Not only lying in wait, but a fresh young player that's going to jump into rotate and keep these other studs that are getting up there. Now, Tuitt's still relatively young. I think he's 28 years old. But keep these guys fresh, because Cam was playing an awful lot of ball last year. And you got an extra game during the season now with the 17-game schedule. So I could always see something like that happening. Warmly, I anticipate the Steelers will probably try and bring him back next year. But this is the second of a 2-year contract he signed last year. So he's under contract type talks. But defensive line, I could see them maybe targeting that. I'm saying first round pick, second round pick, a high pick. I'm not talking about necessarily that they will more than likely maybe address some type of addition at some point. But when you see a 6th or 7th rounder, you're Carlos Davis, nothing against him, but you're already starting out kind of at the bottom of the totem pole, and you got a long way to work your way up that ladder. You can. Brett Kiesel was also a 7th round pick, but nothing is a sure thing, so to speak, when you're in that type of territory. And the higher that you get drafted, and you're always fending off someone else trying to take your job because newer guys are always coming in, I could see the Steelers maybe looking at defensive line in this upcoming draft.
Yeah, for sure. Defensive line is one of my top positions that I like to target for the Steelers whenever I'm looking at their 20th pick in the draft and doing a mock simulator myself. I think defensive line is super on the table. It's very classic Steelers to do best player available, defense, defensive line. And you go back to when they drafted Cam Hayward, I'm pretty positive we already had 3 starters on the D-line that year. He didn't get a whole lot of starting time as a rookie. And he kind of like sat there and was ready to go, first man off the bench. He got playing time as a rookie, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't drafted to come in and be, Jordan Davis for us or this starter. It was kind of a luxury pick in a sense where we didn't have to go D-line. They did, and it was a phenomenal pick. You pick these guys in the end of the draft every year. Defensive lines are really commonly drafted spot in the later rounds because what do you get at that point? You're getting guys like Buggs and Davis, and I'll even throw Loudermilk in there now until he develops more, because that's how you build depth. Is you pick these guys later in the draft too. They're not all world beaters, but they can make your team absolutely. They can come in for a couple snaps. They can spell your superstars. And the Steelers have made a habit of picking guys like that. We just mentioned a bunch. LT Walton, shout out to him back in the day. Remember him? I know you liked him.
He was on the show. And,
he was?
Well, yeah, trying to pry information from him. Like, I know these guys sometimes they don't want to, they get camera shy too, but sometimes they have marching orders not to talk too much about certain things. And almost all of his answers were like, when Marshawn Lynch was out there and he was like, I'm only here because I have to be. And, he was saying stuff like that. LT was kind of like, we're focused on winning a Super Bowl. We're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Just
trying to get
hard.
a championship. It was like every single thing was about, it was like, come on, man. Like a little personality guy. It was like, I think he was in a shell a little bit, but it was fun. I was a supporter of his too. I wanted to kick back to something you said about Cam Hayward. There were people that were calling him a bust originally because a lot of the rookies, he was a first round pick, and Steelers weren't into playing rookies right away, and the CBA was a lot different too, where you didn't have to play them right away. And when they did end up playing some of these guys right away, like Keenan Lewis, they end up losing them to other teams. They weren't able to pay them, so you hit gold, strike gold on like a third round pick at corner, and then you can't retain them due to the salary cap and everything else. But Ziggy Hood like rubbed off poorly on Hayward. You had that, but you also had Aaron Smith, who started to get banged up, and then Casey Hampton eventually retired, I think, after the 2012 season. And that's Hayward finally got in there in 2013 because they were starting to shake some things up. He only started 13 games, but I believe that's the season. Did they start? Was that the 0-4? The stupid 0-4 start with
I think
Minnesota
so, that was Le'Veon's rookie year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. So he finally got in there, and after that bye week, he was entrenched as a starter. So you're going to have those type of comments that happen too. And just looking back on that, like how silly is that? It's like the same thing about TJ Watt. And, they're just drafting him because he's JJ's brother. And why are you taking him in the first round? You could have got him in the second round. And
classic.
A lot of teams, again, what was he, like 28th, 29th?
28th, I believe. Yeah, right after Taco Charlton.
Taco was like 20th. 21st, something like that. He was
definitely ahead of TJ, because Cowboys fans still cry about that. Cowboys and Packers fans in particular are still mad at their teams for not picking TJ Watt.
He's a Wisconsin guy. They feel like they have ownership over him. You know what I mean? But absolutely, I'm going to pull this up too because I hate going off of memory. It drives me absolutely crazy.
That's okay, dude. While you're looking that up, I'll just throw in too Montrevius Adams. It's funny that he sticks out to both of us. And if you're a smart Steelers fan, I hate being so mean like that, but if you're smart and you know ball, you could see that Adams has a really quick get off. He hustles to the ball. He's athletic and gets good push, all those football terms. And what's funny is I heard that he was on the Steelers' radar originally when he got drafted in the third round way back when. So that's a classic Steelers signing. They kept tabs on him. They liked what he offered, and they brought him in when they saw an opportunity. And the game that sticks out to me was the Ravens game at home in Heinz Field when I think the Steelers got maybe 8 or 9, maybe 10 sacks on Lamar Jackson. I was there for that. And I kept saying to my buddy, I'm like, dude, Adams and Witherspoon, Adams is all over the field. These two new guys. I was like, he's hustling to the ball. And this is from the stands. I'm seeing this. So I think Adams, if he keeps on his steady progression, he could be an underrated low-key name that actually sticks for quite some time because he's still young.
Yeah, Steve Mclendon, who's still toiling around. I believe he was with Tampa Bay this past year, and I think he just re-signed with them again, undrafted, and was playing nose tackle right after Casey Hampton, and he was a solid guy.
I remember him in the preseason. Fans loved him. They were like, "Dude, get Mclendon on the field." I remember that.
You know who I was thinking of? Charles Harris went 22 to the Miami Dolphins.
That's right. Yeah, the Mizzou guy, right?
Yes. And then Taco Charlton went 28. TJ Watt was 30th.
Oh, that's the 28. TJ's 30th. Jeez Louise,
yeah,
dude. He almost snuck out of the first.
Yeah, and the reason the Packers fans have such a problem with all of this is because they didn't have a first-round pick that year. They were at the top of the second round with pick 33, and they took Kevin King.
Oh, I thought they took King before TJ Watt.
No.
Okay.
So they didn't have that opportunity. They didn't even have an opportunity to swing and miss like some of the other teams, Cleveland, would have done there. But they had Myles Garrett. They took Myles Garrett in the same draft, number 1 overall. So, but they also had a few other picks, such as Jabril Peppers, and then they moved back up in front of the Steelers at 29 for David Njoku, which is always fun to bring up too. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So Charles Harris is who I was thinking of. I hate having a brain fart on that, but I can't remember everything. Like some of the things I remember in detail is just insane. Like that whole spiel about Hayward and not starting. I was like, that used to drive me crazy back before then, before Steel City Underground was even a thought. And I was like standing around social media, Twitter, whatever at the time, and people were saying these things. I'm like, dude hasn't played yet. Like, how can you say that? Like, we don't know. And that's always been my case with a lot of different players, Mason Rudolph. So speaking of TJ, there's a point to bringing up TJ is there anyone out there who still thinks he shouldn't make what he's being paid?
I know, right? Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, he's worth every penny. He's not even making that much. I think Bosa's like $500,000 under him. Like they're all pretty close, the top 5 dudes. So it isn't like we broke him off some new age breaking the market contract. He's just at the top of the edge rushers right now.
Yeah, he just broke the Steelers because of the guarantees and things that they typically would not do. But you make an exception for an exceptional player. Why anybody is drafting edge rusher to the Steelers and thinking they need somebody. This is the same boneheads that thought Melvin Ingram was going to start alongside him last season when they had Alex Highsmith, who just went on a tear himself. And
first round's way too high for edge. I could see third at the highest, but first and second's too high in my books. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's because mainly it's going to be a depth type player. And looking at some of the depth, well, let's look at Alex Highsmith. And I said this came from the Seahawks game on Melvin Ingram was traded right after. He was was he even active for the Seahawks game or maybe the very next game where they played the Browns too? But from that point forward, Alex Highsmith, 6 sacks, 46 combined tackles, all but one of his quarterback hits, 15 of which he had last season. These things all happened. All his sacks, all but one quarterback hit, 15 tackles for loss as well. All those numbers, when they put Ingram on the back burner and rode with just Highsmith, which took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was the 6th game into the season. Give this guy a full 17 games, he may be a double-digit sack guy too. Might be able to produce. I know some people are like, well, he doesn't seal on the edge, right, and this and that. This is why, you don't put guys out there in their first year a lot of times like a Cam Hayward or anything like that. The speed of the game, everything else like that. It's like when you must put him out there. And they drafted him to redshirt him. That's why they had Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree goes down with the knee injury, yada, yada. You're always thinking about, well, Watt gets hurt, this guy gets hurt. Who do you have behind them? You can't have an all-star at every single position.
It's a dangerous game to play. Yeah, you can't always prepare for that kind of thing. And edge rushers. No, dude, and edge rushers are in the top 4. I actually heard you and Brian mention this on the last episode, and I was like, I told you, I texted you, I was like, I'm like screaming in my car, pretending I'm part of the show. You guys touched on contracts and highly drafted positions, and I wanted to be part of that conversation so bad because, well, first of all, the Steelers aren't getting a good edge rusher at pick 20, even if they were looking in that direction. Edge rushers, quarterbacks, tackles, and cornerbacks are the top 4 highest paid positions in football. The guy who throws the ball, the guy who intercepts the ball, the guy who protects the guy throwing the ball, and the guy coming after the guy who's throwing the ball. They're the top highest 4 paid positions in football. They're also the top 4 highest drafted positions in football. Yeah. So if you're taking an edge rusher at pick 20 for the Steelers, that's telling me it's not even going to be one of the top 3 dudes. And like you said, he's not going to start. He's going to sit behind TJ Watt, and Highsmith. And I want them to have a good third guy off the bench. Like Ingram would be awesome, but that's clearly not going to happen. But that third guy off the bench, here's the thing: it's hard to bring a guy in and convince him he's not going to be the starter. That's why they probably have to resort to the draft and just finding a guy in the third, fourth who can come in and provide a spark. Because you're not going to get any guy who's worth a lick coming in here and be like, yeah, I'll be the third fiddle to these two. Not that there's anybody left on the market right now. It's like Tack McKinley, Anthony Barr, and Justin Houston. And they've had interest in Houston before, but I don't even know if he wants to play anymore at this age.
Well, he'd be at the same position. He knew, going in, unless TJ Watt were to sit out that season, you weren't going to start. That's what always confused me about the Ingram thing. And there are so many people that still complain about the signing of Ingram, and it's like, this happened after DeCastro got released. They had a little bit of extra cap relief. They brought in Schobert. They were trying to shore up different positions. Okay, Schobert was like a rental, and it didn't work out, and his contract really is the reason why he was shoved out the door. Even more so, I know you could say whatever about his play, at least average, or at least you got to think about that defensive line that's in front of him and some of the other things these guys were dealing with. Miles Jack is an upgrade. When you can
Miles
upgrade,
Jack doesn't get released, you never know. Schobert might still be here, honestly, like you just said.
At this point, maybe, depending on what happens with the draft and whatnot as well. So, back with the edge rushers, though, just the guys that are behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith right now, they added Jannard Avery, who we think will be playing an edge role. He's kind of versatile. He could kind of play all over. Derek Tuska is still there. He did all right, as did Taco. Now, Taco went and signed
Saints.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so he was gone. We were just talking about him a couple weeks ago. Yeah, thank you. I need that support sometimes. And then John Simon. Dude. John Simon, is he ageless or is he just
I forgot we had John Simon still in camp, man. There was a period of time where he was a pretty decent edge rusher. He's old now though, but whatever.
I don't know. He's like 35 maybe. But here's the thing. It's like you got that wily veteran type of player who might know to be in the right position at the right time. I aged him way too much, man. 31, and he's from my hometown, by the way, Youngstown, Ohio. So
you went to Ohio State, right?
He also went to a local high school. So he was a local boy. I believe won a state championship with Cardinal Mooney High School, which was in Youngstown area as well, or at least played in the state final, if I'm recalling correctly. So when you see his name, and his birthday is only 2 weeks ahead of mine too, so I should have known this, but he's much younger than me, by the way. But yeah, still 31. He'll be 32 in the season. But you got somebody that's like that wily veteran, and you can put him in on like an obvious, first down, maybe rush situation, and he still knows a trick or two that maybe he's a second slower, but he has like this little thing where you go boop, and he can beat the guy that's in front of him because he's been doing it for so long and knows how to take advantage of somebody who's only been in the league 2 years. So that's what you see too when you have the rookies. It's like, man, welcome to the league.
Yeah, that's all they need, really. They need somebody in the room or someone they draft mid rounds to be that guy to come in and contribute and offer a sack here or two there, because they're not going to get somebody in here to be the three just willy nilly. If that person can be, Tuska or Avery, who's probably lead dog right now with being brought in, or even Simon, that would be phenomenal. Would solve a quick depth issue. And the Melvin Ingram thing, dude, oh my God, I hate to go down a rabbit hole with this, but first of all, Group A of the people who annoyed the absolute hell out of me were the ones saying, oh, all Kevin Colbert got was a 6th-round pick for Melvin Ingram. Oh, that's a bad look for Kevin Colbert. Dude, Ingram wasn't going to play. He wasn't going to – you can't force a guy to – it was either a 6th-round pick or cut him. So what do you prefer?
For half a year. You got a 6th round for not having him for half a year.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, well, they should have told him too bad and just to sit there. Yeah, because that's totally a reasonable thing that an NFL team's going to do. Just let this guy be on the team and distract everyone else. That's what Harrison did. They had to cut Harrison because he was falling asleep in meetings and whatnot. Ingram was like a step away from pulling that crap. So, yeah, he got a 6th-round pick for a guy who didn't want to be here anymore. And then the Chiefs go and make it to the playoffs like they always do, and Ingram gets a sack on TV. And you got guys like Ed Bouchette, or I shouldn't say Bouchette because I don't remember if it was him or not, but it was.
He was one of them.
Nice.
Constant,
so he's like,
constant.
oh, I bet the Steelers wish they had. I bet they wish they had Ingram now. Like, oh, blow me, dude. Like, he wasn't. It's so easy to say that when they're on the national screen and they get a big sack. he didn't do better than Highsmith after leaving here.
No, not at all. And just to put up some numbers, I mean, Ingram had 2 sacks the entire regular season, one with each of his teams, the Steelers and the Chiefs.
Exactly.
And his combined tackles, he had 25 tackles. 12 of them were solo. He got to the quarterback only 6 times after leaving Pittsburgh, and we're saying that Highsmith did it 14 times. He got some quarterback hits, only 2 tackles for loss, but he's a run stuffer. He's better on this and that. Now, come on. We're trying to get him all on the field. I was excited to see what he could do. He was also 32 years old also, and he was coming off an injury. That's the reason why he was available, and he was available in July. He wasn't a priority free agent. I've spent so much time with him. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's talk about a priority free agent, Miles Jack. There's a guy we got excited about. We talked a lot about him in the previous episodes and gave him his due, but that's very exciting to see. Let's see if he can mesh together with Devin Bush, and Devin Bush is maybe completely back. Well, maybe nothing in his head with his knee. Hopefully his knee is 100%. There's a lot riding on that. We know there wasn't a 5th-year option exercised on him. I do believe they still have until a specific date in May to do that if they should choose to do so. But again, that's one of those positions where if you throw that at them and they're making exponentially more, because it's like a total figure. It's almost like the franchise tag where they take the top 5 and make an average. That's the same thing that goes on, but on a rookie scale with that 5th-year option. And you could see Baker Mayfield, guaranteed money too, $18 million, and Browns can't move him. So if you're the Steelers, the smart thing to do is maybe wait and see what's going on here. Obviously, they like Bush enough to move up, and we thought move up and draft him when they did. And everybody tends to forget Ryan Shazier had that injury, and you forgot what it was like to have L.J. Fort and Sean Spence, and I think you brought up somebody brought up John Bostic recently, and
that was me.
Yeah, it was you. John Bostic, Mark Barron,
Sean Spence.
I said Sean Spence, but Sean's post 2 knee injury, like 2 years of recovery. Sean Spence, who wasn't able to get back because that dude was quick, and he could have been another great player. Just unfortunate injury in the preseason too. You never got to see maybe what he would have been able to do, and these things happen. Unfortunately, some of the storybook endings aren't some of the fairy tales are pretty grim, to be honest too. But let's see: Marcus Allen, Robert Spillane, Buddy Johnson, Ulysses Gilbert. I guess Tigray Scales may still be in this mix somewhere. I remember we liked him out of college, and that just Indiana guy, so Noah's real big on him. But they have some depth here. Yeah. Mark Madden ran his mouth. Oh, Super Bowl! Like something on Twitter when Spillane signed his tender, and it's like, dude, do you have any idea how the rosters are made? He has to. He's just doing it to be a troll and get his reactions. Yeah, because he's got to be a jerk. But I feel very good about the inside linebacker situation in Pittsburgh this year.
Me too. They addressed it. I mean, if you don't get Miles Jack coming off that deal from the Jaguars, you're looking at Devin Bush and Spillane starting again, with I guess the possibility of rotating in Buddy Johnson as he develops, or Marcus Allen some more, or Ulysses Gilbert. That's all possible. So it already was in a state of like, well, not great, but long as Bush can come to play, it's not a dire need. They threw Miles Jack in, and now there really is no huge need for linebacker. In fact, it seemed like as soon as they got Miles Jack, all the interesting guys like Devin Lloyd, and there's one other middle linebacker too. I'm forgetting. There's 2 really good middle linebackers that are thought of to be first round this year, and the Steelers' interest and rumors linking them to those 2 dudes all died when they got Miles Jack. So you got your starters. You got a good guy off the bench in Spillane, who I know you hate the word fringe starter, but he's right there. And as long as one of these guys, Buddy Johnson, Ulysses Gilbert, or even Marcus Allen, if one of them can make a jump and be a little more capable on the field, they're totally fine at middle backer. Thank God for Miles Jack.
Yeah, and you said it just perfect. Well, Schobert might still be in the mix, or are they trying to go and get him restructured, or
they could bring him back? Yeah,
play around with. I mean, they may have just kept him instead of cutting him, but it was just everyone who was talking about an inside linebacker, middle linebacker in the draft. That was just very annoying to me from the jump, and I'm just like, no, there's no reason to do that right now. With
whether or not you think Bush has a chance to get back into what he was before, it's kind of nearsighted. Like, yeah, linebacker. The Steelers aren't going to all of a sudden be like, oh, well, Devin Bush, see ya. They're going to give him this year.
Well, let's talk about that. Malik Willis is on the board at 20, and they go inside linebacker. Now, I will say that with a caveat. Where did Micah Parsons go last year? I think he was a little bit. I mean, he might have been a little early. Higher. Yeah, but I remember we were talking about that, and we were like, "Man, this guy." Talking about a dude. He went 12th. I mean, Zaven Collins. We were talking about 16th, and Jamin Davis 19th in the terms of those. But you also saw Rashawn Evans had like no market this year, and that was one of the big names the year before the 2019. Wait, let me make sure I'm not getting mixed up. Maybe 2018 rather than 2019 where they took Devin Bush. So that class before that, they couldn't get any of the top guys. Tremaine Edmonds, Terrell's brother,
Yes.
Leighton Vander Esch, and Evans. And Evans and Vander Esch, they had like no market. They signed like 1-year deals wherever they ended up. I know Vander Esch went back to the Cowboys. I'm trying to think if Evans went somewhere else. And that didn't work out either. And you're going that high. So you can't necessarily fault the Steelers for that. But you're looking at it this year, anytime any player could be a boom or bust. But Miles Jack kind of solidifies that. Now you don't have to worry about that. And you got somebody that's been around the league and doesn't have to have a learning curve. Or Devin Bush wasn't calling plays or wearing the green dot during his rookie season either. And he was rotating with Mark Barron back then. We go to the secondary, because I know we're a little up against this on account of some of the other things we were talking about. And I feel pretty good about this. I wanted Ahkello Witherspoon back. There were some folks that were saying, he didn't sign his contract yet. And it's like, give it some time. Paperwork's got, it's not a fax machine, but it's got to get there. And he's got to sign it. Levi Wallace, who they picked up, and Cam Sutton. And I don't think Witherspoon or Wallace signed with the Steelers thinking that they're not going to get some type of significant playing time. Somebody sat down and looked and said, this is the way we use our corners. And probably somebody said something to Cam Sutton, you're not losing your job or anything like that. You're going to have a flux of these guys rotating. There's a lot of nickel packages or multiple DB type sub packages that they use. So these guys are all going to be on the field at the same time. And then, of course, you got to look at the other starters. Minka Fitzpatrick. Now, people are starting to talk about how the Steelers might make him one of the highest paid safeties in the league. And there's like all this hoopla about, should he really be paid that high, blah, blah, blah. Yes. And quit looking at all the vanity statistics there. They still need a strong safety. You still got Carl Joseph, who was the surprise signing at the end of the 53-man roster type thing. That was somebody that was added to the practice squad. You're like, And then they brought him back. So we'll see. I mean, it took them a little bit to think, but they're kind of they're hedging their bets here. If they don't end up getting a strong safety in the draft, which they could go number one with that, depending on who falls there. The guy from Michigan and
Daxton Hill.
Daxton, yeah. And Kyle Hamilton, I don't expect to be there, but man, would that not be something?
Yeah, Hamilton would be sick. They have a visit coming with Hamilton. When the whole draft process started, there were drafts of Hamilton going like top 5. And I mentioned this on one of our first shows. He reminds me of Minka and Justin Simmons. So I'm not against him being the pick at all. It would just be a really new age kind of secondary where you don't really have a strong safety. It'd be 2 frees. And Minka showed last year he's a great tackler and like he can be physical when he needs to. But I'm not sure how realistic that team of Hamilton and Fitzpatrick is. I would be elated if they got a player of his caliber to come in. But yeah, I don't really think that it's possible, unfortunately. But they do have interest in Daxton Hill, who's the Michigan safety and thought of to be a first-round, early second guy. Flores and Tomlin and Terrell Austin, they all worked him out and all interviewed him, so they have interest there. Brisker is a name. He's the Penn State kid. He's kind of thought of as a early to mid-second round pick. He's also all over the field, good safety. But I think that they could still re-sign Edmonds or Tyrann Mathieu. That dream's not dead yet. But if not, there's 2 or 3 names in the draft that they'll be targeting for sure. Because they got to put someone next to Minka. And right now, you've only got Trey Norwood, who I like, but he's more of a free safety. I do feel better with Carl Joseph being retained. That's a nice signing, and I can't lie and say I didn't like Carl Joseph coming out of West Virginia, and I didn't think he was.
We did.
I thought he was going to be a good signing for us too. I think it was Jacina Anderson that reported that Joseph was visiting here last year, and I got excited when I heard that. And we ended up signing him eventually. And he didn't get much playing time, but he impressed the Steelers enough to stick around. So he at least gives you some kind of fallback plan at that spot. But behind them, you've got no one. Arthur Mollett kind of moves around the secondary a lot. Maybe he could do some safety work for it. He's a physical guy, but he's also very small. And I think their role for Mollett is more of like a poor man's Mike Hilton.
More of a dime backer or a slot cover guy. Absolutely.
No disrespect to Mollett. I liked his attitude and his fire, but I think that's the idea they have for him with, your starters are going to be Witherspoon, Wallace, and Sutton, like you said. They're going to move those guys around accordingly. It might be Witherspoon and Sutton in base, and then Wallace comes in and they put Sutton in the slot. Yeah. It's good that Sutton, not Slutton, is so flexible because they have a lot of options. Sutton, Mollett, and Norwood in particular, the three of them are nice chess pieces because you can move the three of them around.
Absolutely, and it also means you don't have to play James Pierre or Justin Lane.
Didn't even mention them. Isn't that something?
It's sad. It's sad because James Pierre had been the camp phenom, actually, maybe even for 2 years in a row. And I mean, he was burnt toast a couple of times.
He's got the tools. He's got the attributes. He's like 6'2" and some change. He can fly. Yeah, there's just something missing there with the mental game, dude. Jamar Chase totally posterized them, and Justin Lane's never going to get it. I'm more of a positive take kind of guy, but Justin Lane, man, that ship has sailed.
Yeah, if he was going to get it, you don't go trading for Ahkello Witherspoon or going out and getting Levi Wallace. I mean, that's the business aspect of it. He may be their special teamer, practice guy, cheap contract. He's going to stick around. Maybe we'll see if we could get anything out of this guy, if there's any juice there. But absolutely, I agree with everything that you said, particularly even with Mollett and how he's not truly a safety. And I want to say Trey, Norwood's 5'11" or 5'10". Also, he's not the biggest guy, I don't think.
Really, he looks bigger out there. Maybe it's the 1 in his 21 on his jersey. He looks like a taller dude.
Yeah. Oh, he's 6 foot. He actually is. It depends on where you look, I guess. 6 foot here. I have like a number of different sources. Yeah, they have him listed as 6 feet tall. I thought he was maybe just we're talking an inch, maybe.
Yeah, no. And
put the lips in the shoes.
For all I know, dude, yeah, it's in the cleats. For all I know, they might, the Steelers, it isn't like they, as much as it bums me out, I don't have a direct line in my living room where I can call Kevin Colbert or Mike Tomlin and be like, hey, what's the deal with this? So we're all sitting here speculating that they hopefully will sign Tyrann Mathieu or Terrell Edmonds, either one of them, still very happy about. But maybe they're sitting there and they're like, dude, Trey Norwood did really well as a 7th-round pick and made a name for himself. And it's kind of a fan favorite, honestly. You'll be hard-pressed to find somebody in town who doesn't like Trey Norwood. Maybe they think he can be a strong safety. Maybe it's very early 2000-ish of me to think that your strong safety has to be like this Ronnie Harrison, like stocky dude. Maybe you can have a more athletic strong safety these days. So Norwood could be your starter at strong safety. And I'm sure that's going to get some people like, oh, dude, there's no way. But that is a reality that could happen.
Yeah. Miles Killebrews had experience.
Oh, Killebrew. I forgot Killebrew. I feel so bad.
Nah, it's okay. I mean, it's like, but I think it's one of these aspects where you're okay if they're not your top option, but if you had to rely on them in a pinch, in a different situation. And I think that's where maybe they go. Maybe they are looking to draft someone, and then if the draft doesn't win, they're not the only team. You've got Mel Kiper in his draft with the Lions taking Kyle Hamilton 2nd overall. And Todd McShay has the Lions taking Daxton Hill all the way down in the 2nd round. So they feel maybe did I have the right one? No, I might have scrolled too far. Somebody else. I'm sorry, that might not have been McShay. Now I'm seeing McShay. I was scrolling down here. Desmond Ridder, they actually have to the Lions at 32. Oh, and then Hill at 34. Okay. So there's some shenanigans going on there. Boy, would that be an interesting draft, because he actually has McShay would have them taking number 2 overall, Trayvon Walker, which is, you're going between Aiden Hutchinson, Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, and perhaps Ikem Ekwonu And those guys have been all over this mix of the top 5, but this could all get thrown off if somebody trades for a quarterback, et cetera, et
Edge
cetera.
rushers and tackles and quarterbacks.
Oh,
baby.
yeah, But, what's the most critical things that happen in a football game? Turnovers. So you got, or negative plays. So you're going to have sacks, interceptions, fumbles. You think about it. And TJ does almost all of those exclusively by himself. So we're up against it. Flash. We got this one through. We got some more things coming. This is the off season, so we're working on our off season here as far as our programming and everything like that. So, hey, thanks for taking some time out of your, I guess you have a busy schedule too. I know you got other things that are going on. I'm like, these kids, how do they have time to do some of these things? But
no, I have no life outside of the Steelers, dude.
Okay. That's okay, though. I mean, just, I don't know who you're talking to here that I'm looking around. Oh, whack the mic too while I'm at it. So, folks, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and in particular with some of the situations. Again, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. Please keep it clean in the comments. We don't need to see anything that's nasty. It may even get you the ban hammer as far as we're concerned with this channel.
Yeah.
Very, very few things will, but it's like you bring that type of stuff up, or as what happened on Sirius XM NFL Radio earlier in the day. I'm telling you, I'm listening to it all the time. Some guy called about Deshaun Watson and made a comment, and hats off to Solomon Wilcots. He cut this guy off instantly, and he said, you have no room or no credibility to say anything about this based on legal proceedings and what we don't know about this case. We're not going to allow you to say this on the air. And I was like,
trigger finger.
Wow.
Trigger.
I'm like, good,
yeah, that was
but good for him, man. Good for him.
Yeah, yeah. Like and subscribe, please, and stop commenting that you like Brian more than me. Because we don't need him to have any bigger of a head.
I'm not sure that I do. Like, Flash is like my mascot over here. Like, which side? This side over here. I feel like Vince McMahon on the Pat McAfee show. He kept whacking the microphone, and then he eventually just tossed it.
I whacked mine too, dude. I whacked mine too halfway through the show. It's new too. People, I got a mic now. I'm official.
Yeah, look at that. Well, it's in the picture too. It's like it's something that's worthy of being on screen. So, anyways, yeah, do all those great things and leave us some comments. We got some more draft coverage. We're fully into the draft season now, so we're going to talk even more about this. But we had to look at some more holes where the Steelers may be looking at. So hopefully we got some mock drafts. We may have a mock draft insanity, and we may have a few other surprises coming round the bend here.
There's plenty coming. With each day we get closer to the draft, more stuff's going to happen. So there's going to be plenty to talk about. We're going past our limit right now.
Yeah, of course. We always do. It's because we get off track. We're like a runaway train. Anyways, my name's Joe. His name's Zach. Each and every time we encourage our listeners and viewers out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.